We're at the last of the big KOTOR stories, which is Destroyer. This is volume 8, and it collects issues 42 through 46. And this is the last volume, I will say, that has more than one storyline going on in it, although they all kind of tie together. We're going to start with issue 42, which is a one-shot called Masks. And in it, it's just to show Revan and Malak. I mean, Malak is trying to win Jariel over to his side now that the Jedi are officially in the war against the Mandalorians. Revan is proved right, and Revan dons the mask for the first time. So chronologically, this is the first appearance. It's the first appearance of Revan's mask. It's not the first appearance of Revan. He's been here in the background, which is one of the things I like about this series. We really don't get a lot of Revan. We get Malak, and that's fine. But having Revan throughout this series would have kind of taken away from the rest of the cast. Because I mean, this was before Drew Karpyshyn's Revan novel, so we didn't. Revan was left ambiguous, and for good reason. And this issue is one of my favorites, simply because it really shows the bond that Zane and Jariel have for one another, and it's key for what happens next. So moving on to issues 43 and 44 of KOTOR, which are called The Reaping. And in this, Zane and crew attack the Syndicate head on, and basically the Syndicate are now aware of them. And Jariel is beginning to have to deal with her past. I won't say any more. It's a pretty intense 2 issues, and I really like them. Next, we get to issues 45 and 46, Destroyer. Destroyer, there's a reason this is the title of this volume. Zane goes undercover as a slave in the Syndicate to so they could take them down, but it's not as simple as that. And Zane is manipulated over these 2 issues. It is shocking. It's really sad, if I'm being completely honest. And I will spoil something, because going forward into the next storyline, the next volume, it's going to play a key role. Zane learns about Jariel and what she may or may not have done. And the main antagonist of these that's been in the background for a while is revealed, and she's a Zeltron. And if you don't know what Zeltron are, they are a species of humanoids that they have red skin. They aren't Zabrak, they don't have the horns, but they have red skin, and they can play on your emotions. At this point, Zeltron, it was a big deal to have Zeltrons. They are from the original Marvel series and are a species that really are, took a back seat for the majority of the expanded universe's lifetime. And it wasn't until Legacy when John Ostrander's like, Cade's gonna have a Zeltron girlfriend. That was a big deal. We got some Zeltron stuff in Tales and Clone Wars Adventures. I'll actually be talking about the Tales story in the not too distant future with that albino Zeltron who's like a bounty hunter. But other than that, Zeltrons aren't really talked about. And she breaks Zane. And it is sad. I won't go into details, but I remember reading this. So I gotta give some more backstory. Once again, Jeremy autobiography time. I didn't read this when it came out. I got this, and it got shelved. I was in a very bad place in my life. These issues came out 2009, 2010 sort of space. I think 2009. So these came out in 2009, so it would have been early 2010. The trade came out. I didn't get it till I think I got it like during I was in high school at this point, and I was a little a-hole of a human. This just got shelved along with I collected a lot of Star Wars comics, like trades, and they just got shelved. I didn't read them. At this point, I was more into Walking Dead and Marvel's Dark Tower comics, more so than Star Wars. Like I said before, Filoni's Clone Wars really, and Force Unleashed to a certain extent, I mean, they just kind of ruined the EU for me personally for a while. And so I just didn't care, and I went to a very dark place in my life. And I believe this was read during I got in real big trouble the summer 2011. So right around the time I started making YouTube videos on my old channel, I got in a lot of trouble and I got horribly grounded. It was probably the worst trouble I ever got in as a kid. And I couldn't leave the house except for to go to my martial arts classes because I was working at the time as a kids instructor at the dojang I trained at, and so this was my life. I woke up, I left my room to eat breakfast, to go to the bathroom, and I went back to my room, and I would take my bike and I would bike to the gym that I worked out at, and worked, did my shift, came back, and I stayed in my room. And then on nights that I just trained and I didn't work out, I would get taken to the school I went, the dojang school, basically. I went to for my martial arts training as a teenager. It had 2 locations, and one was in another town over, and I get driven down there. But basically, I worked out. I made YouTube videos, and I read Star Wars. And I mean, I read Star Wars, guys. This is when the EU sort of saved my life and really got me into. I'm getting a little emotional. It got me into like a better frame of mind, and it got my shit kind of together. So I reread all the Dark Horse comics I had at the time, which was substantial because I had pretty much most of the omnibuses. So Tales of the Jedi got read, all of X-Wing Rogue Squadron, including the X-Wing novels I had, which then I begged my parents to just get me the Wraith Squadron stuff and the other stuff, and I ended up reading all. Mercy Kill wasn't a thing yet, so all 9 books. I reread KOTOR, and I read this volume of KOTOR. I read up to Legacy Volume 7, I think, at the time. A bunch of Dark Times, all of Clone Wars, all of Republic. All of Republic was read. I reread everything that was in my room. So, a lot of the YA stuff, like the Jedi Apprentice books I had, the Jedi Quest stuff, Legacy of the Jedi, Secrets of the Jedi, Last of the Jedi, the Boba Fett books, that was the only YA series I had ever finished as a kid. So I read that. I read Brian Daley's Han Solo trilogy. I reread Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was my first adult EU book I ever read. And then when my parents weren't looking, because I was still left home alone for like an hour at a time, I would upload YouTube videos onto my parents' computer because I was filming on an iPod Touch at the time, and I actually ended up switching to their camcorder and would just secretly upload videos. I didn't even edit back then. So I would secretly upload videos to YouTube while they were gone. And while I would upload, I would either read Wikipedia, because we had so many gaps in the EU and I couldn't read everything. I didn't have a lot of money, and I was saving up for a car at the time. So I didn't have a lot of money to spend on stuff, so I would read Wikipedia when I hit a point where there was like a big timeline gap and I didn't have stuff for like to read because the material wasn't there. Or I would read one of my parents' Star Wars books. This was, if you guys remember, if you've been subscribed to me for a long time, there was a haul I did in 2013 where my parents just decided they didn't want most of their Star Wars hardcovers, so they just gave them to me. But I had read most of them. Like, I'd read Thrawn Trilogy, of course. Read Hand of Thrawn that summer. I read Planet of Twilight. I read Planet of Twilight without reading Children of the Jedi or Darksaber. I was very confused, and so Wikipedia came in handy. Read Vector Prime again. I had the Dark Tide duology, so I read that, but I had no other New Jedi Order, so I just had to look that up. Labyrinth of Evil. That was the first time reading that. Cloak of Deception. Shadowhunter. Oh, geez. New Rebellion. The A.C. Crispin Han Solo books. I read the novelizations. I just read everything. I even read the junior novelizations because I had nothing to do. I couldn't leave my room most of the time, so I just read. And they took the video games away. I didn't have video games, so I did one day of moping, and then I just started reading because there's nothing else I could do. So I just read for 3 months of summer, and went back to school. And it was nice. This was at a time when I didn't read Star Wars in public, so I didn't. That was just out of the picture. I didn't do that. I didn't bring Star Wars to school. It wouldn't be till later on that I just wouldn't care anymore and would just read whatever the hell I wanted to. But yeah, this was one of those that I read during that summer, and I remembered it. Because it broke my heart. And I really wanted to read Volume 9, and I didn't get to read it. Because I didn't get to read it till that Christmas. And you gotta understand, this was 2011. I didn't even know the series was over. I had no clue. And that'll factor in to the next couple reviews. Because, like, I was collecting these when they would come out. It's special. I pre-order them. Pre-order the trades because I didn't know we had a comic book stores, so I couldn't get the singles. Otherwise, I would have gotten the single issues still. I would pre-order these twice a year. Twice a year, you get KOTOR volumes because they're about 6 issues apiece. Or every once in a while, things would just back up. And I was getting a lot of stuff at the time, so that's how I got Vector Volume and KOTOR's Volume 6 and 7 at the same time. It was all one gift for Christmas. But I got this. And it was the last one for a while, and it frustrated me. And I resisted every urge to look up what happened after. I didn't look up, so I did not get spoilers for KOTOR. In fact, with the new series, I didn't do the whole legacy thing either. I literally, those 2 series to me were so sacred that I didn't spoil them. So, yeah. Anyway, what would I rank Destroyer? That's a solid 5 out of 5. It's some of the best character development in this entire series happens in this volume. And it is so pivotal to the next volume that, it's an absolute must read. I mean, I've been saying this for like the last 3 volumes that the series just gets so perfect. And it's well worth your time to check out. I mean, I just love talking about KOTOR. So join me next time as we review Volume 9, Demon.